I'm in the garden today and I'm going to talk about pine cones and spirituality and your third eye. You probably all at some stage in your life have played with pine cones, picked pine cones up on your walks in the parks or in the woods, painted them for Christmas, seen them as decorations. I love pine cones. I'm fascinated by them, and people have been fascinated by them since the beginning of time. Now, I use them like a weather vane. My friends, my family, everybody laughs at me, but I learned this from my grandmother. This is my weather vane. This will tell me if it's going to rain or not, and it is much more reliable than the news and the weather reports, believe me. So often it says it's going to rain today, and I'll look out at my pine cone and I'll say no, it's not, because my pine cone is open. Or it'll just have a shower because it's semi-open. So let me show you what I mean. You will have all seen pine cones looking like this, wide open. You will have seen pine cones looking like this, closed. Now it is going to rain here today. We've had heavy rain. This was completely closed earlier, but it's slightly opening now because it's just going to be rain showers. But if you can see this pine cone, it is closed. I'm going to tell you why in a minute. And I see this one that is open. So pine cones are amazing. They are nature's weather vane. When pine cones come from the pine trees, of which there are many varieties, I think there's about 40 varieties, and conifers. Now, when a pine cone is closed like this, and this one I normally have hung up in my tree here, it means it's going to rain. And pine cones close their leaves, because these are really the pine cone leaves, to protect the seeds. So if there's going to be wind or cold weather, rain, etc., storms, they will close down to protect the seeds that are in them. And then they will open when the warm weather's here or it's not going to rain, so that the seeds can then blow away, blow out, and fertilize wherever they are. We also eat the pine seeds. The pine seeds are wonderful to eat. They're quite expensive to buy in the shops, but you will have all eaten them, and squirrels love them. So of course they also will close down too if they sense squirrels or they sense lots of animals. So they're very, very sensitive. And there's a really interesting thing how this works with us, and when I explain in a minute. So if it's going to rain, it's like this, and if it's going to be sunny and dry, it's like this. This one I keep in the house, that's why it's open, but I wanted to show you the difference. And I hang this one on the tree here, and it's always hanging there, and I just look out my window and I'll say, oh, it's going to rain or it's not going to rain. Pine cones have been revered through the ages for thousands of years, and they come in all lots of religious aspects as well. They are a symbol of rebirth and fertility. Now, the male ones, funnily enough, are much smaller, and not showy. We don't normally tend to notice them so much on the trees. And they open in warm weather, and they disperse pollen, which will then find the seeds of the much larger pine cone, the female. So on the wind, the pollen flows on the wind and catches the seeds from the female, and they can last on a tree for up to 10 years. So pine trees and conifers all have these pine cones, and they date back to prehistoric times, and they're just wonderful. Now, the ancient Romans used to associate them with the goddess Venus, goddess of love and fertility, and they've been used in history and religious imagery through all the ages. They're a symbol of everlasting life, eternal life. In the Catholic Church, the Pope on his staff, he has pine cones entwined on the top of his staff, and I think it's also on his flag, but it's definitely in the Vatican's symbols. Now there's an interesting thing. Why? Even the Bible alludes to pine cones and the pineal gland in our head. Now it is said that the pine cone looks like the pineal gland in our brains. Our pineal gland is about light, how we see light. It helps with our sleep patterns. It controls the body's sleep patterns and our perception of light. And it's also very often associated with, or classed as, our third eye, our knowingness, our being able to see, our sixth sense, our ability to foresee things or forecast things. Now I think that is a really good way to explain pine cones, because they do know when it's going to rain. Now this one in the tree is old, it's been here forever, so even when the seeds are gone, it still closes down when it's going to rain or be cold, and it opens again. So it is that constant show of spirituality, the constant show of everlasting life, and that life's eternal and it goes on and on. But it senses the rain, it senses the bad weather coming. So this is like this class of our third eye, when we can foresee things. And because it looks like the pineal gland, this is why people or it has been used in the centuries as a symbol of spirituality and religion and perception. So it's a little bit, well, I don't think it's spooky, I think it's absolutely wonderful, but it's amazing how people turn things round. So the Bible itself alludes to the pineal gland and pine cones I think it's in Matthew and Genesis. I'm not a religious person, but I just remember reading that. And Christianity also hints that the pine cone and the pineal gland look like each other, and it's a development of our third eye. So hence, this is the fun part, the conspiracy theorists come into play here. And don't we just love a conspiracy theorist or theorists? I love the conspiracy stories. They point out that the presence of pine cones in religion and religious symbols and in Freemason symbolism shows that they can see things. It does use our third eye, and therefore a symbol of the Freemasons and religion being a symbol of spiritual oppression. And there's even theorists today who say that the Freemasons and other secret organizations like this use pine cones as a symbol to show that the masses are controlled, and they disguise the importance of our pineal gland and our third eye. So they block it, the masses of the governments or the powers be block it by putting fluoride in our water, so that it blocks our third eye, upsets our pineal gland, and we can't see things. I think that's a great conspiracy theory. Pine cones are safe. The pine seeds we all eat inside them, they are very, very good for us, and the whole representation of pine cones to me is fun, and I would love you to enjoy them. You've all enjoyed pine cones, you decorate your houses at festive times. Get a pine cone, hang it up and watch the weather. It's the best way to tell the weather. I love it, and this is why it has this wonderful spiritual meaning. It does have foresight, it does have its own sense. It does close down when it's going to rain, it does open when it's not going to rain, or we're not going to have bad weather, etc., etc. Get some pine cones and watch them. By the way, if you paint them, then this is not going to happen, the opening and the closing, obviously, because then we've damaged it. But have them natural, have them outside, have them in the house. They don't tend to forecast the weather in the house, they do when they're outside. I hope you've enjoyed my little foray into the garden again, and spirituality from nature, and understanding and enjoying what is around us. Thank you for listening, I hope you've enjoyed it.